Every business owner that I have worked with have said the same thing. Same thing. I need better people. Does that sound familiar? Is that something that you have said before as a business owner, business operator, leader? And oftentimes they blame people, right? Um, and that makes sense logically. Like when you begin to think about it, it's like, yeah, when we were not as big or we didn't have as many employees, things were just easier, right? But then things just get harder as we grow. So when service starts slipping, when the customer experience starts to feel inconsistent, like blaming the people is what makes sense. It's the easiest explanation. And so it's just easy to blame people. But here's what I have learned working with most service businesses across industries: healthcare, dry cleaning, financial services. The team is rarely the problem, okay? The team is rarely the problem. And so today I want to show you exactly why that happens and what you can do about it. So I have people online, and so if I'm looking sideways, it's because I'm trying to check in with a chat. So I'm not ignoring you. So let me start with a question. And if you're watching this on the replay, if you're watching this live, just go ahead and put that in the chat. When you think about brands that you love to do business with, the ones that are great at service, that automatically just comes to mind, let me know. Like, do you think they just hire unicorns? Just type that in the chat. Do you think these people are just hiring unicorns? And if you are watching a replay, just pause the video and ask yourself that. Because these people are not just going around just hiring people who are just great at service. Like, do you think they just found some rare collection of people who are naturally gifted at delivering a perfect experience every single time? Like no excuses, like absolutely not. And here's what they do instead, right? They build systems. They build systems that make it easy for their employees to deliver consistently. Systems that clearly define what great looks like. Systems that are documented. Systems that are consistently trained, reinforced, held, um, like holding people accountable consistently. And so it's after they hire the people, like it's the system that they bring them to, that's what makes the difference, not the other way around. Because what I see oftentimes is they, like, leaders will hire people and hope that they figure it out, and then get frustrated when the people don't get it figured out because they are also trying to figure it out themselves. Okay. And so the truth is, you have to understand that if you don't have a system to help your people deliver whatever it is that is in your head as a leader, or what you have come to know, what your customers have come to know and understand about what great service looks like, your people are just going to interpret it. And so it's important to understand that um, a good person, a good person will always struggle inside a bad system. And that is key. We have to understand that a good person will always struggle inside a bad system. And so that's why, or this is the main thing that makes the great service organizations different. They are not just hiring people hoping that they figure it out. Because what if they are not capable of it, right? Because nobody told them what great looks like, what is expected of them, and that's the difference. And so instead of focusing on just finding the right people, why don't you focus on building the right systems that make the right people find you so they can then execute consistently. And that's a mindset shift. And the mindset shift that I think oftentimes is lost because Walt Disney was great at that. He clearly understood that if we don't build the right system, it's going to be harder to consistently deliver whatever it is that he had in his mind. And so that's why his famous quote of we don't put people into Disney, we put Disney into our people really solidified that. Really solidified that. So, like, think about that for a second. We do not find people who are already world class. I mean, nobody does. Like, there's only a small fraction of such people. But we build systems so thorough, right? So clear, so consistently reinforced that whoever walks into it knows exactly what is expected of them. That's what makes them so different. That's what makes any brand, any company that came to mind when you think about great service, that's what makes them different. They are always focused on building that system so their people can deliver it consistently, like regardless of what is happening, regardless of what is going on, regardless of location, regardless of time, regardless of day. Like, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the founder is in the room or not. And that is what a retention system does. And all these brands on the front end has it as great service, great experience. But behind all that, it's a retention system because it takes the standard out of the founder's head, out of the owner, the operator's head, and puts it into the business's infrastructure. And that's what Walt Disney got and understood. So as a result, the business just stops depending on one person or that one key employee at the east side location. And so if that person don't show up, then there's a problem. And customers notice this. And so it's a matter of how do you take all these standards and systems or in your head, in your mind, and help operationalize it, systematize it into your business. So I'm curious, how many of you have ever said, or at least thought, I just need better people? Just put that in the chat. I just need that. I just need better people. It's very logical. And I want you to know that that instinct is not wrong. It's just short of where the real answer is. Like, that's not the answer at the end of the day. Like, you have to clearly know that your people can only do so much. Your people are only good in the system in which they find themselves. And this can get really expensive, really, really expensive for businesses. I was talking to someone today, and we were talking about like the impact in high turnover. But the reason why this can get so expensive is this. Like, if you have not defined, right? If you have not defined what great looks like, okay, let's do this. What is great? Like, what is great? If you have not clearly defined what great is, it gets expensive because in the interim where your team is trying to figure out what great is because they don't know, so they're trying to figure it out. It's not like they're not doing anything. They have to do something because there's a customer in front of them, there's a client in front of them, there's a client they have to deal with, work with. And so they deliver their interpretation of what great is. That's the problem. And interpretation is the enemy of consistency. If you're trying to be consistent, then interpretation is your issue. But oftentimes, why that becomes the case is most leaders, as they grow, As a company grows, they delegate. And there's nothing wrong with delegation. You have to do it. It's just a natural course of growth. But then they delegate without systems. And that's a problem. And so, because you have not defined what great looks like, and everyone is interpreting, what you have essentially done is that you have given everyone the free range to define great. Free range to define great. And so, if on your team you have like 10 people and you ask them what great is, you're probably going to get at least 5 to 6 different answers, right? Worse, you could get 8 different answers because everyone's definition would be different. And that's where the interpretation comes in. And the reason why the interpretation exists is because of our different backgrounds, different experiences, personalities, and of course, their own definition of what great looks like or what great service looks like. So I grew up in an orphanage, right? From my exotic accent, you're probably wondering where I'm from. I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa. And I grew up in an orphanage. So, what great looks like to me from my background, my environment, is completely different, right? Like my direct instinct of what great looks like is, did we get the customer what they needed? And it's the same thing your employees are going through too. At the end of the day, it's like, do they know what it is? Because whatever their definition is, let me tell you, whatever their definition, here's the scary part. It's it's not wrong, right? Whatever their definition of great is, it's not wrong. You may not like it, but it's not wrong. And it's not wrong because it's not their fault. It's not their fault. And you're probably thinking, but that is common sense. I mean, shouldn't they know? Like, that is common sense. But here's the thing, common sense is not common practice. So if you are not clearly defining what it is and you're just saying, yeah, just just take care of the customer, just be great, just use common sense. That's another one, right? You don't have a standard. You just don't have a standard. You have variations of the interpretation of the standard that you think you're trying to create. And that's a problem. Like your like great service should not be based on personalities of your team, right? It should not be based off of the moment, inertia. Like it should be clearly defined. And that is why the experience begins to feel consistent when you begin to grow as you get bigger, because great was never defined. That's a difference. That's a problem. So think about this, like in your business right now, okay? If I walked in and I asked 10 of your team members what great looks like, would I get the same answer? That's the real question. That's the real question. Will I get the same answer? In fact, let's do this right now on the chat, okay? Let me know. Would you get the same answer? Just put same or different in the chat right now. If we asked your team, what does great look like? How do we define great? What do you think you would get? Because that is very, very important if we are going to stand out and if we are going to be able to protect profits, raise revenues as we grow. And I think that is a mindset shift that most of us don't have, that most leaders lack. It's a blind spot, and it's one that can easily be fixed at the end of the day, easily be fixed. And this works. Like a few years ago, when I started in the dry cleaning industry, I had one of my employees come to me crying, Cassie, terrible. And I don't know. For me, like growing up in an orphanage, like it took me back to my time at the orphanage in Ghana, where I remember my little brother had gotten in trouble for not making his bed. And in that moment with Cassie, like that was all I saw. And so that's what led me to learning and trying to figure out how do these brands do it? How are they able to do it well, but also consistently? Like, what's the difference? And that's where I started learning and understanding. Went to Disney, went to Magic Kingdom, went to Underground, studied, understood their retention systems, like, and that's where it began to make sense. And when the issue with Cassie happened, right, because the customer complained she didn't make eye contact, she was rude, I could have easily blamed her. I could have easily said, well, it's her attitude. She should know better. It's her personality. But here's the thing, I knew who Cassie was. I knew she wasn't the problem. And if she was crying about it, she cared. And it's because we, which was me as a team, had not given her what she needed to be successful in her role. And that's the problem. Like, your people. Oftentimes you already know you have great people on your team. But the question is, do they have what it takes to take care of your customer? Have you given them everything that they need, the skills, the tools, the training? You know, alignment is better than agreement. Because oftentimes, as your business begin to grow, most leaders think, well, I don't know if my team can handle it. I don't know if they can do it as well as I can. And I think there's a level of insecurity there with leaders as they grow because they are scared their teams will mess it up. But if the goal is to do it consistently without you being in the room, then it's not about if they can do it better than you or not. I think the better question is, have we given them what it takes to be able to do that in the first place? Because that's the first place to start. It's not even another training, right? Like the decision has to be, and we have to look at, have we made it easy? Have we made it possible? And do they have what it takes to do it consistently? And that's where the systems come in, building the right systems, right? Have we clearly defined what great looks like? Because if you never build it, they will never be able to deliver it. And that's why I say, if you don't define it, right, they will decide it. Your people will decide what great looks like. And it's important to understand the importance of defining clearly what great looks like. Because if you don't, and if you don't build the right systems around your team, it just makes it harder. It just makes it harder. And that's the issue most companies go through as they scale, as they grow, is because they never define what great looks like. And so their people are basically guessing, interpreting what great looks like. And in the instance with Cassie and the example I shared, like after learning all these, working with some of the top brands out there, consulting firms, implementing this in the business, I mean, we saw tremendous success, right? We were charging at least 30% more than the nearest competitor, right? We grew revenue at least 5% each year. We reduced turnover from 35% to 5% with the same team. With the same team. The only difference was that we had a new system, a new and better system. And that's the difference. That's the difference. Like having the right systems make all the difference. Make all the difference. So here's what I need you to do. You've probably heard this, and so your first instinct is, man, we need to train our people better. But do you know what you're training them on? Do you know what they need? Like, do you understand what is required? So please, like, if you're going to do anything, if you're going to do anything at all, please do not go do another training. You've already done that multiple times and it never worked. It has never worked. The issue is not more training. The issue is not more motivation. The issue is not doing a huddle every single day or every week, or let's bring that up in the managers meeting. That is not the solution. The first place to start is to clearly define what great looks like. What does a great client interaction look like from start to finish? Because you can't be flying blind, okay? What does a great handoff between teams look like? All those things impact the experience. What does great client experience should feel like at every touch point? Because if you cannot answer these three questions, but this is the hard work. If you cannot answer these three questions, if you cannot write it down, how can your team execute it consistently? Like, if you cannot write or answer these three questions confidently, how do you expect your team to be able to deliver it or execute on it consistently? You can't, they can't. And so that's why they are consistently interpreting what great looks like. The reason why I don't like training, right, or taking them to another course, another conference, right? Because with most conferences, seminars, training, the whole point, the whole goal is to teach you the what, the why, and the whole idea is that you come to them for the how. And just like trainings and courses, for example, it's one-sided conversation. It lacks context. It lacks your context. Because what is happening in your business, the challenges that you are having is completely different from someone else's business. And so going to a conference, a training, just bringing someone to do a speaking engagement, like that is not going to solve it for you. You need to understand that you're building a system and you need a system. You need to reinforce it consistently, not once, but consistently, ongoing, and then holding everyone accountable. That's what makes the difference. So if you're going to do anything today from this, is to answer those three questions. Really, really answer those three questions, right? By understanding where the handoffs, where the breakdowns are happening during those handoffs, where is the standard being interpreted instead of being executed. And you can only do that by clearly define what great looks like. And then you begin to see where the experience is drifting as a result. And that's where the retention leak is forming. So if this makes sense, for you, as you work on defining what great looks like, understanding what the handoffs are, where the retention drift is happening as a result, I have created an assessment that takes 3 minutes, okay, for you to answer, and you are going to find out what your score is. You're either going to be in a red zone, a yellow zone, or a green zone. And it's going to show you exactly where your retention leaks are happening. Then it will also give you clear standards and clear, not standard, clear solutions, like clear custom plan of what you need to do next. So if you know your standards are unclear, if you don't know or wondering where the handoffs or breakdowns are happening, where your business is still too dependent on your key influencers, I'm going to leave the link in the description below. And then if you want access to it, just DM me the word DM me the word score and I'll send it to you. Just DM me the word score and I'll send it to you. Because if you don't know where the retention risk is forming, where it's coming from, there's absolutely no way you'll be able to solve it. So before you mention this again in the next training, before you think about going to a seminar or bringing a speaker to come in to motivate and encourage your people, raise their customer service levels, it's not just customer service they need a system. And you need a system because it helps protect your profit and raise revenues. It helps retain your client because in the world that we find ourselves right now, okay, if you don't understand the importance of great service and great experience, it's going to be harder for you to scale because customers understand the importance of the experience. They love the predictability, the consistency, the certainty. And that's why you have to understand that every customer you keep is a competitor you beat. I hope you found value in this. And also remember, if you need to take the assessment, if you feel like standards are unclear in your business as you are growing, as you're scaling, just DM me the word score. If you are watching the replay, it's going to be in the description below. Or you can DM me the word score at any time. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.